friends, and welcome. You are listening to episode 19 of Cake Over Keto, your non-diet podcast that stands up against diet culture so you can make peace with food and your body and eat the goddamn cake without anxiety and guilt. If you struggle to stop thinking about eating and food, if you feel anxious or out of control around food, or feel uncomfortable in your body, this is your safe space for the next 20 odd minutes, free from assumptions and judgment, whatever your body shape and size. I'm Mel Wakeman, registered nutritionist, intuitive eating practitioner, non-diet counsellor and lovers of cups of tea and a decent Dunkin' biscuit. A chocolate hobnob holds its own pretty well. If you want to let me know yours, I would love to hear. I specialise in disordered eating, recovering from chronic dieting, body dissatisfaction and eating disorder recovery through a weight-inclusive lens. And you can find me on social media as Mel Wakeman, and I share lots of free non-diet and healing content. And if you want to drop me an email, you can message me at mel@wakemannutrition.com. I am open for questions or if you just need to rant. In this episode, I don't bloody want avocado pudding and why healthifying foods make me miserable. I want to get into why a recipe is seen as better because it contains a vegetable. Let's take the good old cauliflower. In my honest opinion, best served baked until golden in a thick cheese sauce, has now been demoted to the bottom of a pizza where it oozes water and disappoints. The cauliflower craze goes back to like 2009 and 10, and people are like, wow, cauliflower, I didn't know you could do that with it, which might have been super handy if you were celiac, but then it turned into thick slabs and they were called steaks. And sure, it may have helped the world produce a little less methane, but then it was riced and made into quote unquote healthy ice cream. And now you can buy keto cauliflower crisps and crackers. How did this happen? Food trends will always come and go. I think cauliflower is probably one of the longest ones yet, perhaps because it's rather tasteless. So it will go with pretty much anything. It's flexible. It fitted when paleo became popular and no one wanted to eat grains, when vegetarianism picked up, when we were told we should trick our kids into eating more vegetables, and of course, the current low carb and keto craze. Food and health seems to be synonymous these days, fed by foods being either good or bad. It's the some is good, so more is better theory. It's why when turmeric became all the rage, folks started doing their own intravenous infusions. No, don't do that, please. So literally every year, food trends are predicted, and before we know it, flour is swapped with courgettes or sweet potatoes, and we're told it's still bread. Coconut oil replaces any other type of oil, particularly butter, and avocado gate crashes the chocolate mousse. And this is called healthification. It's when we adapt a particular recipe or dish, sometimes a diet, to improve its health value. And this is what I want to tuck in today, because we need to look at what this health looks like and who is defining it. And I'm not here to criticize you if you're loving the process of beefing out your recipes, experimenting, and that's what you want to do. If you're managing diagnosed food intolerances and allergies, isn't it great? There are so many swaps available these days that makes life easier. But I also want you to know you don't have to do this, especially if you're finding yourself getting sucked in. It's got confusing and it's having a negative impact on your mental health or bank balance. So get your brew in hand, let's cut a slice of cake and dig in. The problem with healthifying is the mass misassumption that most foods we eat are bad. So if we can, and someone usually does, make them better, we should. And better means healthier, apparently, usually with the aim of lowering the calorie, fat, sugar or carb content, because weight loss is the sign of success. And because of this, the artificial and natural sweetener market has gone ballistic. But there's a fundamental problem I don't think these will ever address. We can't trick the body into believing a sweetener is the real McCoy. Sweeteners don't give us the same, if any, energy compared to sugar. Like, this is the energy that keeps us functioning, that keeps us alive. And sweeteners don't stop cravings because they don't press the right buttons. And sweeteners will not shrink a body that is genetically pre-programmed to be a certain weight. Now, I don't want to sweep all these swaps, alternatives and novel ingredients under the same rug. Like, I prefer the taste of light mayo compared to the full fat version. I also really like those Walker's baked crisps because they are kind of a nice or special kind of crunchy. What's different now? Well, compared to 15 years ago when I wouldn't let anything fatty or sugary pass my lips, is now I focus on how foods make me feel. That's what recovery brought me. That's what intuitive eating brought me. Not focusing on how foods will change the way that I look. And it's problematic when we are bombarded constantly with messages like, these are completely healthy. Double your weight loss by eating this. This food will help you to eat better. It's so black and white. And if they were really honest, they would probably be saying things like, might give you the shits, may not curb your sugar cravings. No guarantee this will make you slim. But that doesn't sell, does it? And there's that hope of, well, it's worth a pop, right? Everyone else is doing it. What possible harm could it do? It's all for health. But believe me, I did the no added sugar, dairy-free, egg-free, fat-free, high-protein, gluten-free muffins. I did zoodles and courgette. I tried so hard to convince myself they tasted the same, or at least tasted good, because they were supposed to be good for me. But I was left feeling like something was missing. I was left feeling empty, dissatisfied, and joyless a lot of the time. I was the person who binged on rice cakes and Muller-Lite yogurts. Rivita and cottage cheese were the staple lunch 7 days a week, and snacks were always a high-fibre, healthy flapjack. But all I got was crampy and windy. I was bloated and miserable. And that guilt-free label never helped because it fed into the idea for me that, well, go ahead, you can eat more. This kind of stuff really messed up my relationship with food. I put sweet potatoes in pancakes and bread. God, I made a cheesecake once. All the things I loved, but believing that if I put something healthy in it, they would help me become someone else. The sweet potato pancakes, by the way, were flipping awful. They fell apart like in a really annoying way. They were not fluffy and they were bloody chewy. The perfect example of just because you can do something doesn't mean that you should. I tried the avocado chocolate mousse. Like, I love avocados. I will beat you to avocado and poached egg on toast any day of the week. I love chocolate. But together, not like in the words of Joey from Friends, if you remember that, the episode where he ate Rachel's beef trifle because the pages are stuck together. And he's like, what's not to like? Custard? Good. Jam? Good. Beef? Good. It just made me laugh. Sorry about the impressions. But avocado chocolate mousse just wasn't the same as normal chocolate mousse for me. Its higher content of healthy fats did not make me feel any better during or after. My husband just thought it was weird. It left us wanting some proper chocolate mousse. Because food is not just about nutrition. It's about flavour and texture, satisfaction, like hitting the buttons, fun, nostalgia, human connections, memories, and so much more. So let's imagine for a moment it's Sunday dinner time and you've got it with all the trimmings. Roast potatoes, cauliflower cheese, parsnips, stuffing, peas, carrots, cabbage. Okay, it's what we had at the weekend. My husband cooked it. But you decide to skip the parsnips because, you heard they're a bit carby. The roasties, however, are skinny ones. Now, we didn't have skinny ones, but when you look them up, they're cooked without any oil. So in this example, you choose to fill up on all the veggies because, hey, they're good for you. And maybe you'll just have one potato because then you're not restricting. Because the world tells us when we fill up on veggies, we eat fewer calories. So that must be a good thing to do. And after a while, you're still eating. Even though you've told yourself you've probably had enough, you tuck into another potato, assuming and hoping the feeling of satisfaction will come. That big sign that pops up that says you can stop now. It doesn't. Then it's time for pudding. You're already uncomfortably full, but you're totally unsatisfied. You're bored, you don't want pudding, but also you do want some, and you end up feeling out of control eating it, like you want to stop, but you can't. So you go to bed that night feeling bloated, and you wake up the next morning committed to only eating healthy foods from now on. And you still get surprised when they don't satisfy you, even though that's what you've learned. You just choose to ignore that fact. You think it was just a temporary lack of willpower, and what needs to change is actually your level of discipline, not your mindset around food. So you keep eating all the healthy foods that don't satisfy you, trying new swaps, convinced collectively they'll be the answer you are looking for. But again, you just don't believe that this out of control feeling you get around food could be a natural response to all your efforts to be good about what you eat. Proper roasties aren't the problem. Neither are parsnips, sandwiches made with bread rather than lettuce or peppers, or a fully leaded chocolate mousse. It's the perceived need to control what you eat that's the problem. It's the whole good versus bad food belief system that's the problem. And the world has told you it's possible and normal to eat good foods and restrict bad ones without consequence. So you believe it. You've been convinced that being careful about what you eat is just part of being a responsible adult that cares. The fact that your own experience completely contradicts that just makes you certain there's something wrong with you. Yeah, we live in a world that assumes we are what we eat. Stuff all the other factors that can determine health. Diet is everything, apparently, along with some HIIT training and maybe some fasting when it comes to health. That food is medicine. It's not, by the way. Read Dr. Joshua Woolrich's book on this. I'll come back to this in the pick and mix as well, and there's a link in the show notes. But there's this view that it's our own personal responsibility alone almost to be healthy. And that's not true either. That's called healthism. We are told a healthy diet is one that is unprocessed, balanced, but free from sneaky ingredients you can't pronounce. But here, drink this superfood powder. Eat plenty of fruit and vegetables, but not carrots or sweet corn, and definitely not mangoes or grapes because they're too carby. So here's to the privileged who can do that. Privileged with certain genes, with access to the food they want, with enough money, mental capacity, mental health, ability, and time to do that. But here's the thing. Our individual behaviours that include eating and exercising only account for some 36% of our health. I put a link in the show notes for more on this and a super helpful illustration that explains the social circumstances contribute around 24% of the variation in our health. Genetics and biology contribute 22%, medical care 11%, and environmental factors 7%. That's a total of 64% of factors being entirely out of our control. And of those behavioural factors, we are not 100% in control of all those 36%. Because within those 36, we include stress levels, anxiety, depression, hopelessness, things we can't just decide not to feel or switch off. And our relationship with food sits within this. We have to stop thinking that being healthy is being morally better. We have to stop trying to shoehorn a flawed concept of health onto others, because doing that causes harm. Health stops being healthy when it's taken for granted or obsessive, and when it ignores the individual experience. Food restriction and abiding to eating rules are very much normalised and encouraged today, hidden under a blanket of everything in moderation and just eat when you're hungry and stop when you're full. That's just not helpful, and it definitely doesn't get to the root of the issue. When I was at my peak of obsession, I was eating fat-free spread on low-calorie bread, forcing myself to exercise and refusing to eat out with my friends because I didn't know what I was going to be putting in my body. But this was me being a responsible adult, trying to be healthy, to look after myself because I was away from home and at uni. I remember a time being offered some quote-unquote healthy cake. This was at uni, it wasn't dodgy cake, it was meant to be some degree healthy, I don't know. It turned out not to be what they said, and it completely freaked me out. I went into meltdown. I lost all sense of myself, of what I enjoyed. I microanalyzed everything I ate, which took up so much headspace. I denied the fact that most of my food choices tasted crap. And I was spiraling into restrict binge cycles. Making yourself eat something because you think it's healthy isn't healthy. You're allowed to stop. And yes, making healthful choices for you is important, but enjoying your food and respecting your body is important too. And you don't have to keep removing foods from your diet to achieve that. The healthiest choice for you could be saying yes to whatever food you feel guilty about eating, so you can overcome the guilt. Because the mental gymnastics and mind games that go with restricted eating are not healthy. Now hang on just for a moment. I have a mini pick and mix coming up next where I'll signpost you to some further resources that will help you navigate the diet is everything conversation. Right, let's see what we've got in the pick and mix today. I have 3 nuggets you might find helpful in sorting the nutribollocks out from the effective, compassionate health advice. Number 1 is the book Food is Not Medicine by Dr. Joshua Wolrich. Yes, he's a real doctor, also an associate registered nutritionist, and it's a brilliant read. Like me, he follows a health at every size approach, and he is passionate about fighting weight stigma and encouraging his patients to have a healthy, happy relationship with their bodies and food. He busts all of the toxic misinformation, and he adds a sense of humour, and it's really good. So if you don't follow him already, go and have a look. The link is in the show notes to this book. Number 2, another book is called Gentle Nutrition, a non-diet approach to healthy eating by Rachel Hartley. Gentle nutrition is the last and the 10th principle of intuitive eating, and the most tricky, I reckon, as it goes into the nuance of what health looks like for you. It's an ideal book if you don't want a diet, but you need help with the practicalities of eating without the rules. Again, the link is in the show notes. And lastly, number 3 is I've got some past episodes of Cake Over Keto that, having listened to this episode, you may want to revisit or just go and listen to. The ones that kind of link are episode 1 is not dieting, just an excuse to eat everything. Episode 12, fearing fullness. And episode 16 is about anxiety and food issues. I think they may well answer perhaps some of the questions, or you might find that you resonate with some of the things I discussed in those episodes. And if you feel out of control or guilty around food, I can help. I specialise in eating disorders and disordered eating. I take a weight-inclusive, neurodiverse and human-centred approach. And if you're not ready to commit to the work, but want more information about the non-diet approach, just come follow me on Instagram, and you can sign up there for my intuitive eating and body acceptance emails. So coming up next is episode 20, and it is the last of this season, season 2. I want to share with you in this episode my recent diagnosis of ADHD at the grand old age of 49. And I also want to begin to join the dots together when it comes to neurodiversity and eating behaviours, something that I'll be coming back to in season 3. In the meantime, trust your body, take care of yourself, know that you are enough, always. And I'll see you next time. Oh, and cauliflower pizza crust will never come close to a true pizza crust.
This has been a Monkey Pants Productions podcast.